Hey guys, Mike here. So, boy, what a day in the market. And boy, I mean, you know, talk about a mixed bag on earnings. And it's clear that if you miss and if your guidance isn't put out there, boy, you are going to get punished severely. Okay. We'll talk about all those different stocks. Also, more importantly, a pattern you are seeing happening over and over now on the leaders of the market, the ones that were the leaders. Okay. And so now we still have leaders, right? AMD and NVDA and Avgo, great days, right? For them. And you got some others. But it's this pattern you want to apply to them. And when you start to see that, you go, ooh, okay, not good there, right? Because that means the market is going to come down, okay? But right now, what you're seeing is those heavy hitters, the winners, so to speak, in the semiconductors, because it's not just all of them, that's for dang sure, you know, continue to push up and continue to grind up and get bought up and bought up and bought up. And so watch for this pattern on them. Again, all of it's noise until you see it. That's just the way it is, okay? And so one of that, plus we have more earnings. One sector is just getting absolutely just taken out the woodshed. And so we're going to go into all the charts, okay? So again, feel free to put any questions you have for Saturday's video. I'll start working on those as well. Any questions about this video or any stocks you want to talk about. But when we go into the S&P, you can see we got this rising 5-day moving average where it's closed just below it, okay? But this is what you want to watch for, right? Break of the 5, come down, test the 20, that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like the sequence you got to look out for. Right now, we haven't done that. And it's still a rising 5-day moving average. But, you know, when you look at this run up, we only closed below it like twice all month, which is kind of insane, right? So, you know, when we look over here, what's the level we're going to be looking at to hold? Right here. If we do come down, get any kind of weakness on these earnings and start to sell down, that's it right there, 62.83. Can we hold that level? That would be the 20-day retest. Also, if we come down, when we hit this daily fair value gap, right there, I almost bet money we bounce. So we cut through it, then you know something definitely has happened to Microsoft and some of these other bigger stocks for that to happen. And we've also had a big spike. I almost bet money on that. And so you're looking for the daily fair value gap to hold or bounce. If we break through that, coming down to 20, coming down to 63, whatever I said, 21 or whatever it was. And then when you look over some of these sectors and while you're seeing the Qs, it'll go green while the S&P will be red the last couple of days because of these big sectors like healthcare. It's a mess, right? That's why I talk about UNH. Can it come down, Father? Heck to the yes, okay? They reported earnings, as we all thought, pretty much knew by looking at the other healthcare insurers. It's a disaster, right? So what are you looking for? Around that 250 area right there, which is what it held before. That's what you want to see. It actually holds and does not break, because if that breaks, we'll get to that in a second, it can definitely go farther down for sure. And people think, again, something down 60%, you got to get into it, man. It can go, all that good stuff. And just one of those areas where it's a good dollar cost average area, probably, sure, no doubt about it. Depending if you like healthcare, but this sector is a mess. I mean, a mess. It's not even this one. It's like even property insurance, everything. The whole insurance sector is just a mess. But a lot of people, I'm telling you, they're waiting for this right here to go, boy, if that thing comes down to that 2020 level and takes it out, because a lot of insurers have, then, oh, I'm all in on that one. Because, you know, a lot of insurance companies, they're going to have to make a lot of adjustments because of the new laws and the different Medicare reimbursements and Medicaid and all that fun stuff. Like, I think UNH even announced it's like 600,000 people they're going to be kicking off because they're not going to do the Medicaid programs. They're going to make changes to it, and it's going to affect a lot of people. That's a whole different thing. But you can see where that level is at and why it's so important to hold the 250 level, right? Because you see the volume gaps coming down if it does break it. There will be a lot of buyers sitting down there if it breaks that 2020 low, for sure. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of people will be DCing in. The problem with UNH is there's so many call sellers on it right now that when they do the call selling, the dealers have to sell the stock to hedge. And that's what's going on with UNH, okay? NVO, diet drugs, right? Got absolutely eviscerated, okay? Down again. They broke up with HIMS, remember? And they're like, oh, no, we're going to do that. And here they are. See where they held? Like so many of these stocks do this, right? They come down and you see where they held. So they got the 2022 levels. It's holding that right now. Will it bounce? If it does bounce, you know, I always say give it the 3-day rule for sure. But a lot of people want exposure to this, right? Because they've seen how fast these stocks can go. But this one's just been an absolute mess. When you look at HIMS, it was red. Right? It was getting drugged down, but it ended up green for the day. Ended up breaking out of this actual triangle pattern here and going up and filling part of that gap that we had talked about, you know. And so if it can hold this, you know, then obviously you're going to see 63, 67, 73. If that's the case, all right, it's kind of bucking the trend right now. It's kind of surprising, to be totally honest with you, but that's the kind of stock this is. When you look at Oscar, again, this is like an innovation type healthcare stock as well, online, all that fun stuff, like the fintech of healthcare insurance, I guess is what you can call it, or the SoFi of healthcare. And you can see that one was red as well. Like they all got drugged down. I don't care which one it is. And so it's at a level where it's like, oof, you got to hold this, right? So a lot of people DCA it in on this level right here, want to hold it for the future. Depends on what your timeline is. Like going back to MBO, you know, I know people are buying in the 70s and 80s on this thing, right? So now they're stuck and underwater. And so if it does bounce, it's going to be one of those questions of like, are they going to hold? Or are they going to get out if it comes back up to their level? And what's the kind of company going to do for distribution with this drug and everything else? So, you know, a lot of question marks, just like in UNH and all these health insurance providers. And clearly, big gap above now looks familiar, right? It looks like UNH, we got this big gap above. There's where you want to be, again, below all the moving averages. So, you know, look for a move from here to 67 if it gets going again. If more, because I know people were going into this today. They're like, yeah, I'll go into open position because they're going to swing it because they can clearly see their stop is going to be around 47, 48, right? And that's where they want to go. But the upside potential, because we've seen how these kind of stocks can move, can be astronomical. And so they're thinking 5, 10 years down the line, obviously, is what they're doing. I was even talking to a nurse practitioner. He said this is the #1 drug he prescribes. Is the weight loss drugs, right? Because people don't either have time to work out or just won't work out, won't do the dieting, won't do all that stuff. And it was kind of interesting to hear a practitioner say that, because he said that's the #1 drug is weight loss drugs. I'm like, wow, okay. That was a side note, by the way. Sorry, I got on a tangent. But, you know, AMD, big move again. Again, second day out of the channel. I mean, 170, I believe we got to 183, if I'm not mistaken, today. So that was just awesome. But what you've seen for this one is it's coming up. It comes down, gets liquidity, again, comes up, comes down, gets liquidity repeatedly, and just riding the 20-day up, finally breaking out of this channel. A lot of calls came in on this one right at the last minute of the day. Again, they don't have earnings till next week, so I think it's maybe what people are playing for. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. You know, but when you look, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green bars in a row. Any other time you've seen in the past, it's come down. It's either filled a gap, mitigating a lot of those imbalances. So the question is of when. And then when I show you this pattern I'm talking about, you'll know when. Okay, it'll be clear as day because you're starting to see it almost starting to develop on Taiwan Semiconductors right now. But again, earnings is going to have a lot to do with this. There's no doubt about it. I think seasonality is going to have a lot to do with this, as we know. You look over at NVDA, again, another leader here. Okay, it's AMD, it's NVIDIA, it's ABGO, it's Microsoft, these stocks. And clearly, you can see the same thing. It comes up. You got these huge multiple green days, come down, mitigate some of the imbalances, bounce, start running up again. That was actually a pretty good run where it didn't leave a lot of imbalances. But whenever it has, whether it's left a big gap, imbalances, usually swings down very quickly to get it, and then it starts to move up again. Okay, this one came back in the channel. It has stayed in the channel. But once again, it's still riding this 5-day moving average up. Hadn't even got anywhere near the 20 right now. And it's a lot of times what happens is it's going to be quick. If there's any kind of volatility event, it's going to be very quick to come down and grab it, right? But I mean, AMD clearly is so far just got so much momentum behind it, and that can change on a dime. I mean, we're getting to those points now where the VIX is being crushed down to a level where you usually get to see a pop. Or another thing you get to see and hear a lot of people talk about is, again, call selling. I'm going to sell calls to hedge my shares, right? So when they start selling calls and a boatload of them start coming on these stocks, the dealers have to sell the shares. Okay, that's where some extra selling pressure comes in at. Okay, so we'll be listening for that. I know a lot of people are doing that right now. ABGO, another winner still moving up. But a lot of them are hitting also key levels, right? Like this one hit 300, 302 to be exact. That's a big psychological level, right? You saw the 180 call wall, which one of the members called out. Now, that was a call wall. It hit that, sold down immediately. But you kind of see it on Taiwan Semiconductors, right? High, low, lower, high for right now. And that's kind of playing out. It's come down to the bottom of the channel. Again, it has not broke the channel. And with stocks, which I'll show you some other stocks like this, they're usually going to break the parallel channel, going to break the 20, going to retest the 20, and then sell down from there. The question is, and this is where you don't want to predict it, you don't want to front run anything, is when it breaks it, is it going to come down, fill this gap? Okay, if that happens, and then just start bouncing and start grinding back higher, right? It's just setting new higher lows, new higher highs, right? Because Taiwan Semiconductors is what I'm going to start calling the 4 horsemen. That's what I'm going to start calling them. AMD, NVIDIA, ABGO, and clearly Taiwan Semiconductors are like the 4 strongest, it seems, right? And so, and not that they have monopolies or anything, but they're definitely the most popular ones. But this pattern, you saw it on CrowdStrike, right? And you start seeing on a bunch of the big boys. Comes down, it breaks the 5-day moving average, breaks the 20, retests the 20. You can see on CrowdStrike, it's retested it twice now, and it's sold off twice. And it's coming down, okay, while the market continues to go higher, but it's coming down to an area of support. Okay, so not all stocks have to go down at the same time, right? So this one's been selling down, one of the top cybersecurity stocks out there. Question is it going to bounce? It got to bounce off that level the first time we talked about it. Look at Uber. Break the 5, break the 20, retest the 20, reject the 20, now coming down to a gap, and also what was previous all-time high, which we'll look at in just a second. So you can see, look at the patterns on the charts. They almost look identical besides the gap, right? And so you go back over, and again, that was a previous all-time high for quite a while. And so now it's retesting that area. CrowdStrike, what's happening? It's retesting that area. Okay, so we've come back down. I believe on Uber, though, like it really never even came down. Once it broke above this, it was either never able to hold it, like there it just broke right back through, and it was resistant, and then it just exploded and never came down to retest. So it was actually like a first, like real, true retest to see if it can hold this area while also filling that gap. Okay, so that is actually big time. I wish I'd have pulled up the 50 moving average on this to see where the 50 is in this thing. To see when in the last time it retested, and you'll see why I'm asking that in just a minute. But again, and if I look at these, I'll guarantee you, if I pull fibs up on all these, they're going to be in a discount window. So that is the area where you normally get this bounce. It is just more interesting to call this when you're, sitting there coming to clearly a month where it's like, it's iffy. It's like a 50-50 deal. September is usually worse, but and so all of them are setting these discounts, setting in these areas where it was previous all-time high, or either a big gap going into all-time high, or a support area, right? So that's what's going to be interesting to find out if these are going to bounce from here, or if the market overall is going to turn weaker, which will drag these stocks down even more. You can see this on Spotify. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute, but it got killed on earnings again. This was one of those ones that has one of the greatest returns you'll probably ever see on a stock. And it's down 22% while the market's been grinding higher. A lot of stocks continue higher. And you can see it broke through that key level. So instead of coming down and retesting like Uber and CrowdStrike did and so many others, it just broke through it. But the key with Spotify is this trend line. See, this trend line goes down. You can see in that area how many times it was support and resistance. I mean, it's a key area, right? Which now it'll be resistance when it comes back up. But this trend line you see right there goes back about 3 years, which I'm going to show you, but you'll see the same pattern here. Watch. Break the 5-day, come down, break the 20, retest the 20, fail, retest the 20 again and fail, retest the 20 again and get rejected hardcore, and boom, just so happens to coincide with earnings, right? So it's the same thing, except this one just plateaued right through that main level. But here's that trend line, which goes back 3 years now, and you can see we've had multiple bounces. This has been an unbelievable run from 74 to almost $800, right? And now it's coming back down this trend line. This is not where you want to break if you're a Spotify holder, okay? So it is an area where you're like, this is definitely an area of interest right here. You pull up the visible range volume profile. There it is. You can see why you don't want to break it, right? Because if it breaks that, what's even more interesting, look at the 200 moving average. I brought that up for a reason. Shockingly now, this is, this thing has not retested its 200 moving average in over 3 years. And I had a retest of it. And so this is one of those ones where I wish I would have pulled the 50 moving average, but I didn't. And so you can see it right there. So if it breaks that trend line, watch for a test. And you see how, look at that run. Hadn't tested it, right here, where it came up and blew right through it. But as far as like being above the 200 and coming down for a retest, not since 2021. It came down and fell right through. I mean, that's a long time. It's a long time for any stock to go that long without touching it. And so, but again, you see the pattern, okay? Break your 5, break your 20, retest the 20, fail, come on down some more, find what that key support level is, see if it can hold that support level, okay? And so you're seeing this in a boatload of these stocks. It's been these big runners. Now, SoFi reported earnings, boom, a lot of people are like, yay, gave it all back. Right, which is famous. Well, right here, they did an offering right after they the CEO was like, yeah, let me go ahead and screw these guys real quick. And so hopefully you sold your options, not your shares, but your options, I hope. Congratulations to anybody who did. I'm sure you made out great, and I love it. But again, it gave back every penny. So we're starting over. Okay, so we're back down to 2098. See if it can hold that level. That's definitely going to be a key level. You can see it was kind of, in that pattern right there, broke out with earnings. But anytime, like SoFi is famous for popping and dropping on earnings, like it never fails. And some of those because they were doing offerings in the past as well. So, but that's going to be key. So now we get to see when people wake up in the morning, it's going to be right back down in below that trend line right there to see if that is going to hold that 1.272 fib right there. That's what we're going to find out or not. Are we going to come down lower, right? Do we get a pop up? What I'm interested in, if we get the pop up, what happens on these inverted fair value gaps, right? Is it going to come up and go, okay, we're going to the moon, and then reject, and then start heading down lower? That's really what I want to see when it comes to SoFi. And we'll put the fibs on here and everything just to see if it's going to be able to get through that or not. Because this is a classic setup of a short to happen here. So we'll see. I definitely want to see that, and how people are going to react and everything. But again, congratulations to whoever played options on, or even if you played shares and sold some shares right there. That was a good play for you. So anyway, now speaking of earnings going forward here, you can see tomorrow is going to be a very big day for the market. In the morning, you got a few right here. You look at Kraft Heinz, Humana, Etsy, Hershey, Harley Davidson. If Humana, takes a dump, get ready for the other insurance companies to go right with it. Okay, that's what's been the trend so far. Then you can have Meta, Microsoft, Robinhood, and then we'll go with Carvana, which is also another one, Qualcomm, and then Ford, and then ARM. Watch out for ARM, okay, because that one is sudden where it can absolutely have an explosive move if they have good earnings. And it's set to have a big move, almost 10% on earnings right there. As you can see, Meta's only like 4 to 5. As far as data, remember we got FOMC tomorrow. Going to have advanced GDP, advanced GDP price index, ADP, non-farm employment change, pending home sales, crude oil inventories, and of course, they're not expected to cut rates. What we're looking for is, do they give any kind of hints about the next meeting? That's really what you're looking for, any kind of different description of how they're thinking and stuff. So anyway, hope you guys got something out of it. Please hit that like, subscribe button on your way out. Think about signing up for the membership. Less than McDonald's combo at $7.99. That's everything you get with it. Just hit the first link in the top of the description. Let me know everything else I can do for you on that. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another fun one.